Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Come on in. Let me turn this down, get my technology right. Very good. Welcome to Talks with Tanya. How's everybody doing today? Yes. It has been a beautiful couple of days. I have been just busy with good things, talking to some amazing people in the community. Um, Making plans to do good things. So come on in the room. Come on in and join us. Thank you. Thank you so much. Let's go. Here we go. Welcome, everyone. I appreciate you coming in today and every time that you come and join me on Talks with Tanya. Good morning. All right. So, welcome to Talks with Tanya. My name is Tanya Bain, and I have a consulting company called Tanya Inspires. And what I do at Tanya Inspires is I really focus in on educating, informing, impacting, and connecting each of you with information that will help heal your life, for you to share information, make a difference in someone's life, so that we all move forward into whole life success. And whole life success for me is finding that great balance for your mind, your body, your spirit, and your soul. Those things that sustain you, that help you move forward and complete the things that you need to do, or just sit back and relax a little bit if you're at that stage in your life. Just those things that really contribute to that. I'm going to ask you guys to go ahead and make sure that you share this out. I want you to make sure that you share this out, and invite your friends and family, because today we have another amazing guest. So before I bring my guest on, just want to reflect on the events of the past several weeks. I kind of lose track of the time frames, but it has been a visual call to action. And when I say call to action, I just want to impress upon you how important it is for you to find your way, okay? Find your way of contributing to being on purpose, to following through, and playing your part in the dismantling of racism. It has been a pervasive issue. So many over the years have lost their lives. So many people have sacrificed. And yet and still, we are in a place now that, as I have been saying, it is time. It's no longer time to leave it to someone else to do. It's no longer time to sit back and criticize. It is no longer time to do nothing. It's no longer time to accept what is not acceptable. Each and every one of us have a call on our lives in order to do the right thing, to see that justice prevails. And we, as citizens, as humans, have basic human rights. And we should not allow, in any circumstance, under any conditions, for those rights to be violated. We should not allow those rights to be violated for those that of us in, that are brothers and sisters, okay, in this race, which is the human race. As people of color, we have been marginalized on every level. Many of our ancestors have fought and given their lives so that we can live the lives that we have now. We are seeing our young people, uprise and really giving us an example of how we're just not going to take it anymore. Enough is enough. And sometimes I know as you watch the protests, it can be overwhelming. But I would just ask you to examine yourself. There is something that you can do to move the cause forward, to right the wrongs, each and every one of us in our own way. I choose to use my voice and my platform to do so. And I choose to bring a balanced view to the situations and circumstances and events that we find ourselves in. So if you would like to come on Talks with Tanya, just go to Tanya Inspires on Facebook and schedule a discovery call. Would love to have a conversation with you and see what we can do so that you might have an opportunity to share with others, okay, what it is that you want to bring to the table. So I am going to go ahead and bring my guest on, and then I'm going to introduce her. I'm really excited. I'm excited every week. I am so fortunate because I have this platform and I have been blessed to have so many amazing guests on with me. So here we are, Danielle. Welcome.
Good morning, Tanya.
Good morning. Good morning. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to help me welcome Donyale Hall. Danielle is running for Lieutenant Governor of the state of Delaware. Lieutenant Governor of the state of Delaware. I'm so excited about that. And let me this would take the whole show to go over her bio and accomplishments. And I know she hasn't included everything here. But Danielle is a businesswoman, a wife, a mother of 10. Okay, that in and of itself is a huge accomplishment. All right. And a Gulf War era veteran of the United States Air Force. She moved to Dover in 1973, where her father was assigned to Dover Air Force Base. All right. And I spent some time working in Dover myself. I don't even want to say how long ago, but I think about it. It's been a little while. Donyale is a 1987 graduate of Caesar Rodney High School, and she has raised her own family here in the state of Delaware. Of her 10 children, 5 are Caesar Rodney graduates and 1 graduate of the early college high school at Delaware State University, where 2 others are currently attending. Her 2 youngest are at W.R. Brown Elementary School, Two of her sons are carrying on the family legacy of military service as members of the United States Air Force. And that is such a wonderful, wonderful legacy that you have passed on. Danielle had dreams of becoming an architect. And let me just tell you what comes to mind when I think about architect, okay? It's someone who designs and builds. So, yes, and just sees it from the foundation to the completion. And I would submit to you that you have already become an architect based on the life that you have lived. Uh, Although her education and career path took her in an entirely different direction, her creative problem-solving approach to life has served her well in building in other meaningful ways. Danielle, from 1990 to 1994, in support of Desert Shield and Desert Storm, served in the Air Force in avionics as a communications navigation system specialist, and majored in electrical engineering at the Citadel Military College of South Carolina in her off-duty hours. In 2008, Donyale received her MBA with an emphasis in finance from Wilmington University. And as a result of graduating at a severely depressed time, it left her with limited local employment opportunities. But not our architects. She knew how to turn that around. And during that time, she stayed at home raising her children. She opened her first business, a catering service, as a supplemental means of income. And many of you know that I am a great supporter of entrepreneurship. Danielle, once again, she went on to incorporate her business, has opened several other businesses, and in that business, she has reached back to help others in finding opportunities to become business owners, to helping veterans as working for the United States Department of Labor, for veterans employment and training, ensuring that Delaware veterans were being properly serviced by the federally funded outreach programs that were set aside for them. Danielle has taken all of this experience and stepped forward because she believes that there is an opportunity to serve the people of Delaware in a way that they are not being served today. So I would just like to introduce to everyone Donyale Hall. Welcome, welcome, welcome. That is impressive. That is impressive.
I really appreciate the opportunity to be on the show with you this morning and speak to the people who want to learn more about me. So thank you for inviting me today.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So Danielle, what sparked you to run for public office? This is not the first office I believe that you have run for. What sparked you into, leaning towards public service?
Well, I'm sad to say that my father passed away last March. He was also a veteran of the Air Force, and he served during the Vietnam War, and he had a lengthy battle with cancers and heart failure and other organ failure due to his exposure to Agent Orange. But he was a major force to be reckoned with. He had a deep, abiding civic duty to really be impactful to the community. He was one of the original board members for the House of Pride. And that program really addressed people who were addicts and trying to get them a better way of life in the community. And as his oldest child, I was his ride or die. I sat in the passenger seat in a lot of ways, not only in his truck, but he kept me close by and very close to the things that were near and dear to his heart for the community. So in that regard, I had a pressing desire to have my own life reflect a service of self mantra, so to speak. And I knew that at some point after I kind of got my kids moved forward and got myself situated, that I wanted to be a part of the bigger conversation that really changed the lives of people here in my own community, as well as the rest of the state of Delaware. So I've always had that inspiring feeling that we needed to have a voice. And growing up and going down all the different paths that I've been down personally gave me, I guess, more of a firsthand experience at what the hardships are, and having to navigate my way through resources or lack thereof. It really cultivated a genuine cause in me to give those kinds of resources to people around me. So like you mentioned before, when I opened my business, I've been instrumental in helping hundreds of small business owners get established and connect them to the resources. It's a daunting task to become an entrepreneur, and it's even more difficult to find working capital to be able to open and support your business. So having had my own experience with the difficulties of that, it gave me some valuable insight on how to help others. And so, as I looked across the lay of the landscape where Delaware is concerned, I see that with my finance background, there are things that we just aren't doing to spend our money wisely. There's a lack of transparency. There's a lack of being able to access programs here in Delaware, and it just really shouldn't be that hard. So, with the business portion of it, of course, I'm a veteran. We have a large veteran population here. We have a large active duty population here. There are things that are going unmet in our veteran administration. My father had a lot of difficulties being able to get support services in his last days. I think it's atrocious the way that we treat the people who have pledged their life to serving this country, and it's a shame how we treat our veterans. I also feel that our education system, as a mom and having so many children going through the public education space, that there are things that really need to be worked on. It's sad, our K through 12 young people are coming out of high school and they're not career ready or job ready. And, there's a lot of things that speak to the developmental phase of our children. They are indeed our next generation. They're going to be the ones who will be our leaders, and we have an obligation to be able to give them the best advantages once they see the other side of high school. So, those are the high points of what I stand for. I have no problems being a voice and being out here to be a champion for those causes, because they are near and dear to my heart.
So there's something that you said that kind of raises my eyebrow, because I've heard it more than one time, and particularly over the past several weeks. You talked about a lack of transparency.
Yes, ma'am.
Explain that to us, because very often people don't, understand what that really means.
Well, when I spoke about that, I was speaking in particular to just being able to see how the money moves in the state of Delaware. If you are a person who cares about where your tax dollars go, and I know, my hard-earned dollars, I want to make sure I'm getting the best bang for my buck. So I want to be able to have it set up so that it operates kind of similarly to my experience with Veterans Employment and Training Services,
Mm-hmm.
my agency acted as oversight for the federal dollars that came in to service the veteran community. And as a part of that program, there was a reporting period, a quarterly reporting period, where you could see the line items of where the expenditures were, and it gave a real opportunity to make sure that the intended recipient was actually being serviced the way that they were supposed to be.
Hmm.
And if you take that and you apply it as a broad brushstroke across all of the other budget items that we have as a state budget, we need to be able to have some accountability. And the only way you can really hold people accountable for what they're doing with the money is if you can see it, ergo the transparency. So, I'm wanting to diligently look at how we spend our money here in the state. And I heard your intro, and we're going to get into that at some point about, why I lean conservative. I'm a very strong fiscal conservative, and that makes me align with wanting to see more of our tax dollars being spent where they need to be spent. There are too many programs that are out there that we throw good money after bad, and we don't have an expectation of a measurable outcome. We don't have metrics in place. And again, that speaks to the transparency. How can you hold people accountable for money that you can't see, or see where it's going, or its efficacy, if it's working? Those are the things that I find problematic. We need to really look under a magnifying glass and see what's working and what's not. We either need to tweak what's not working and get it working, or we need to get rid of it and find something else to spend our money on to be able to give people opportunity here in the state, which is very much needed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for answering that. There is, and this is the particular time that I believe, our Black Lives Matters movement is a movement. It wasn't, I saw this post today. It wasn't Spirit Week, last week. It's a real thing. There's work to be done, and understanding some of the intricacies about how our government agencies work. All right, is our responsibility. It's our responsibility on so many different levels. So let me ask you this question. You talked about being fiscally conservative.
Yes, ma'am.
And also you have, it's not something that you hide, is that you are a candidate, a GOP candidate, which means that you are registered as a Republican. Okay.
Yes.
Many people of color are, lifelong Democrats because my mama was, or because it has tended to be the party of the people. Okay. So can you share with us or help us understand why it is that you have, you're running as a Republican and have elected to be a Republican in that party?
Well, ironically, 4 years ago, I was campaign manager for the Republican candidate for this particular office for Lieutenant Governor. And when we were in business together, he sat down and he caused me to come face to face with taking a deeper dive as to how I was affiliated. And he asked me a very simple question about why I was a Democrat. And so I said, well, when I became of voting age, my parents were Democrats, and I registered as such because that's what, I figured was the thing to do. My family was affiliated that way, and I really didn't even question it at the time, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. So as I grew older and I got an opportunity to really look at my values, he gave me a little questionnaire. Mm-hmm. And being the educated woman that I am, I took the test, and I I got my results back and it says, congratulations, you're a Republican. And I was like, really? So I said, I'm going to look a little bit deeper on this issue. And so, we live in a technology age where you can go on Google or whatever browser you want to use, and you can type up, these political inventories where you can take a test and really figure out where your values lie. And every last test that I took had me as a right-leaning centrist. So what does that mean? It means that when it comes to the right-leaning portion, that speaks to the fact that I am a fiscal conservative. So that's what leans me right. And I think that most people can get behind the fact that they want their tax dollars spent in effective ways. And so I didn't have a problem being a voice for making sure that that got done. However, when I looked back at the centrist, I had to figure out, well, what does that mean? That means that I'm more moderate on social issues. And so I use analogies to illustrate points quite frequently. So I will tell people, if you think about the swing of a pendulum, it's only at its extreme left or right in the swing a very minimal amount of the time, and most of it is spent in the center. And I think as people, most of us fall somewhere in that center piece of it. And so when you look at my platform, I speak about things about, effective government, again, figuring out what's working for us and what's not, and being able to figure out where we need to make corrective actions in that regard. I speak on things about education opportunity. Education is a gateway to unlimited spaces where they require for you to have that piece of paper that says, I've invested myself in learning in this area. I have achieved at least an academic side of the expertise of that. And now I'm looking to put that academic side to practical use in the workspace. So, we have to really place an emphasis on education. Personally, my own experience with my children, I had to go in and really be a loud advocate for them in the school system. The counselors don't always know exactly where the opportunities are and how to point your particular child in the right direction, the path that they should be on. So I want to make sure that we have, again, those opportunities in reachable places for our children. They are our future, and not all children want to go to college. So, we have to be able to have some different things out there for them to get into, other opportunities where they need those skills for, and their certifications and the trades and so forth. There are great opportunities out there in the trade industry. But again, if you don't have those in reachable places, not only the children suffer beyond their high school education, but they also, the parents need to be able to be knowledgeable about how to help their children. So, the last prong of my platform speaks to economic advancement opportunity, and that deals with the small business realm. So, I talk to people about where I stand on the issues, and I find that out of every 10 people, I might have one person that gives me the pushback on the fact that I'm affiliated as a Republican. You can't paint a person with a broad brushstroke. You really have to do your homework and educate yourself on what a person stands for, what their platform is about, and you have to get out and vote your values. So you can't be put off by an R, a D, an I. It's not about Republican, Democrat, and Independent. It's about what the person's platform is and what it is they are going to do for you. And we live in such a time that people are wide awake and they are asking that question, what have you done to earn my vote? I'm diligently willing to get out and earn your vote and tell you about myself. I put my personal cell phone out there. It's been my same number for 15 years. I didn't change it for the fact that, I'm running for office. I won't change it after. I think that we need to put people in office that are willing to be held accountable, that will pick up that phone. And if I told you I was going to do something and you elected me for this office and you feel that I'm not doing your job, the job that I told you I was going to do for you, I want to hear from you. I want you to pick up that phone and say, Danielle, girl, we got to talk because something is not right here. You know, I want to be that person. I want people to get out there, and whether they put me in office, you know, this cycle or not, I want people to have an awareness that as elected officials, there's an accountability piece there. And I promise you, I'm going to hold everybody that's elected over me accountable for the area and the space, because they were elected to represent the me and the you. You know, marginalized communities are those communities that are overlooked and forgotten. And I feel that our elected officials have failed us epically. And I plan on at least highlighting that and changing the narrative when it comes to politics. We have to be involved.
We have to be involved. Thank you so very much. I just want to go out here and just share some of the comments from our listeners. Thank you, Tiffany. Welcome. You know, she just commented, we can't speak on what we don't know. You can't educate without transparency. Thanks for keeping it real, sis. Yes. Another reason why you're on.
Is my line sister. I am a Delta.
Huh?
And, you know, I applaud our Greek organizations. It doesn't matter which one of the Divine Nine you belong to. You know, we are diligent about making a difference in the community and being impactful. So I wanna, you know, raise the roof for all the Greek orgs that are out there, you know, making it happen. It's important that, you know, we use whatever mechanisms we have in our wheelhouse to get that information out. I just find that that's so important. We've got to get people registered to vote. You know, we were talking about the dates. Those deadlines are coming up rapidly to be able to register. As a matter of fact, today, June 13th, is the deadline to register to vote for the presidential primary. For the mail-in ballots, we're going to have July 3rd coming up as the deadline for mail-in. So if you're not wanting to go out and be exposed to the risk of, you know, coronavirus is still out here. So people who you know, are immunocompromised or don't feel comfortable going out to vote at the ballot box, you know, you can mail in your ballot. You got to do that by July 3rd. The 22nd of August, that's the deadline to register for the primary election overall. And then, of course, we have October 10th, which is the deadline to register for the general election. So for anybody out there who's looking for this information, you can go to elections.delaware.gov and you can register to vote from the privacy of your own home. It takes less than 10 minutes. You can change your, you can register to get these ballots if you haven't received them for absentee ballots. Make sure that you get out there and do your due diligence. I've heard, I know you brought up the Black Lives Matter movement, and we have a lot of people who have taken out, you know, to the streets in disgust for things that have gone on and to address systemic racism. You know, it's great to carry a sign. It's great to be out and have, you know, your voice heard on the street, but it can't stop there. And you might as well just put down that sign if you are not willing to make your vote count. That's how we change things, the electorate. We got to put people in positions of power that are not intimidated or afraid to represent marginalized communities. And I can tell you, they won't have to worry one iota about me not being vocal. You can tell I will definitely say what I feel.
It's absolutely important. A comment from Alicia. You want to make sure that you do your homework, research the candidates, pay attention to their track record and their voting record. Does it reflect and has it reflected your interests, concerns, or issues? All right. You can look at what someone's voting record has been. There are many elected officials that are out here marching and carrying signs, okay, that the week before last All right.
Didn't know your name.
We're not doing anything, okay? That we're standing in the way, okay? That we're not taking our phone calls, that we're not responding, to us. So let's keep that in mind.
That's
We
right.
have to do our homework. We have to study, all right? We have to study. We need to that's right, Tiffany, turn that motivation into mobilization, action. Got to spring into action.
That's right.
There's so many different ways, and I touched on that. There's not anyone that cannot do something.
That's right.
Okay. Everybody, something might be different. All right. But if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to get the same results.
That's the definition of insanity. How about that?
How about that? How about that? You had made some points about education. I'm going to share a quick story, and then I'm going to ask you to really talk about, your stance on education. I've been around for a little while, and I remember going into the high schools and so forth, and doing a program. I think it was something like the Keys to Success or something like that. And there was a time where I felt like I could walk in a high school. All right. And that I would receive the respect from both the students and the faculty. And last year, I went into a high school. I'll just say it was Newcastle County. And I was pretty much dismissed, all right, by the staff, all right, while at the same time, someone who was coming in, nobody even asked me what I wanted. It was just an assumption that I was there. Actually, the assumption that I was there to pick up someone who was being detained for a behavior issue that they had. Okay. Meanwhile, that wasn't it. I was coming in actually to share some information that would be helpful for their students. And I was just there was an assumption made based on what it was that I looked like. All right. And I was just, I take things personally. Okay. So I was hurt. Okay. And angry that just that quickly, the assumption was because of the color of my skin, I was someone's parent and I was there to pick them up, because of a behavior problem. And that just brought to mind the mindset. And that was just one experience I had. Now I know some amazing teachers. Okay. And, there are people who want to do the right thing, but it is that pervasive mindset that is there, that people, it's that bias, okay, that we have that really immediately turns people off. Okay, turns people off. So just imagine that in the school system. So you are running on a platform of providing us with equitable education. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I want to circle back to something that you said, because it kind of raised the hairs on the back of my neck. As a mother of 10, those 10 are divided, 6 girls and 4 boys. My boys have had a very difficult education experience in contrast to my girls. I recently put out a video that talked about our children in schools that our young Black males are 3 times more likely to be suspended for the same infraction in school. And that starts very early on. I did some research many years ago, and there was a study, I believe it's called the 4th grade study. And by the time young Black boys they reach the 4th grade, the teachers, and it's not, I don't think that it's a voluntary thing, it's just conditioning, that the same kind of phenomenon you see when a Black man enters an elevator and you see somebody clutching onto their purse, that same kind of perception is happening even at an early age with our young Black boys. They don't perform well in school because of it. So my oldest son, he was the cute little curly haired kid that walked from my house down the block to the elementary school where my youngest are attending now. He was picked on for being the straight A student. He was picked on and called names like teacher's pet. And the kids would harass him and try to push and shove on him on the way to school. And, these are things that are still going on. And he's now 24 years old. But, these are things that are still going on. I'm blessed in the regard that I learned from that experience how to help the 3 younger boys. The 2 next oldest are the ones that are currently serving in the military now. So one is on active duty, and he's down in Georgia. And then I have the one that's in the National Guard. He actually participated in the ROTC program, but he was a child that was identified at risk. And I can still remember when he was in 2nd grade, a teacher said that child needs to be on meds, just because he learned differently. And had I not been the mother that I was and been involved, I went in and volunteered in the schools. And so that teacher would be able to give the extra instructional attention she needs to give my child. I would help with the other children in the class as a volunteer, do their reading assignments or whatever she had in their classwork, just so that it would give her a lift. But, these are the things that we have to do as parents. And unfortunately, there's a very small percentage of moms like you and I who will go in and stand on the top of the boardroom table and preach a whole sermon about what you will and you won't do where my child is concerned. And I've had to have those uncomfortable moments. But, if we don't advocate for our children, they're falling through the cracks left and right. And that just shouldn't be. Unfortunately, we have a generation of children that are going through the schools that don't have that level of support. It's quite evident with the pandemic how children had technology lacking at home. There's still, my 2 youngest, they'll be finished up with their school on Tuesday, but there's still a third or better in some of their classrooms that are still not present during the online instruction piece. There's no reason at this juncture children should not have one-to-one technology. I'm just going to go out there and just put it all out there. We build pools, we build football stadiums, and all of these things. And I'm not saying that that doesn't have its space, but it should not take precedence on making sure that these children have one-to-one technology that could be very easily school issued. So when I talk about equitable education, that talks about the dollars and cents that go per child in the state of Delaware. We rank among the nation's highest per child expense for education, but we're seeing the poorest results for all that money. Why is that? That's because we're not spending the money where it needs to be spent. It's not making it to the classroom for the teachers. That's where it needs to be. And I think that we need to really look under a magnifying glass on how we correct that situation and fix it so that the children have the resources in class. I'm tired of buying dry erase markers. I'm tired of buying all of the things that should be already in the classroom so the teacher's not digging out of their wallet and I'm not digging out of mine. I can't even send school supplies to school that belong to my child. They all go into a community pot. There's something wrong with this picture. And I don't think that we're spending enough time really trying to figure out how we leverage the amount of dollars that we are spending to for our children to be educated and to be seeing such poor results. 13% of children graduate from high school not reading on grade level.
Mm.
That is atrocious. It has to stop.
Absolutely. We have some amazing comments. Tanya Williamson, thanks for joining, Tanya. Listen, had to deal with that stigma with my son, and I stayed on the schools and even the colleges. She even paid $2,000 for a test to prove to the schools that her son was sitting in the top 10 percentile because of school administration ignorance.
I agree. It's a very sad thing. That one son that I was speaking of, he tested. I'm trying to remember which testing they were using at that time. But in that state testing program, he was in the highest category for testing, but yet he was failing the classes. Why is that? That child would go into the classroom, he would sit and he would soak up that information like a sponge. He would come in, he would test, he would knock it out of the park, 100%. And you know what they did? They accused him of cheating because he wouldn't turn in his homework. So his grade was lacking because, he was proving that he had a mastery of the material on the test, but there was such a scale set up to where him not doing his homework or his classwork assignment caused him to be failing. And because he was not, in that setting where he could really move forward academically, and then with the kids picking on him and him fighting, I think I shared with you earlier that there was an incident at the middle school, and they used to play this silly little game where if your neck was open, somebody would smack you on the back of your neck. They called it open neck. My son was not happy with that, and they ended up in a tussle, and both of those boys were arrested for reckless conduct in the school, and that started him with a record in the court system. That's how it starts. We get our boys end up in situations that set them up for that school to prison pipeline. And I know people know what that means. And if you don't know what that means, you start getting these infractions, and the record gets built up with these minor things going on in the schools. And then it transcends right on into a situation to where you're now in the court system, and any little thing that you do, whether it's being pulled over for a ticket, for a light being out, or you're speeding or whatever, now you've had those touches, and it doesn't take much for you to establish, a record in the court system. And even though it was a juvenile offense, now they're looking at that for purposes of sentencing as an adult. So, it's a sad state of affairs, and I can't say that that's just exclusive to our boys, because I can remember at least two of my children. My second oldest, she was an academic dynamo. This girl went to Georgetown University on a full academic scholarship. She graduated at the top of her class. But when she was in the middle school, there was a teacher there that was feeling some kind of way, because after 2 weeks into the beginning of the school year, my daughter had tested 2 years beyond in mathematics, and she was put into that higher class. And so the teacher was irritated because my daughter wasn't there for the first couple of days and didn't really know the protocols of the class and didn't know where to find the assignments. And she embarrassed my child in front of all of her peers. She yelled at her. Now, my children have home training. They know that they are to remain respectful. And when they get out of the classroom, they are to tell me what happened, and I will be a champion for their cause. That lady retired after I had my discussion, because it wasn't the first time she had done that to one of my children, and I see that with even our girls that in the AP classes, they're doing exceptionally well, but they're sat on the curb because, they are the cream of the crop and they have risen to the top. And if they don't fit the mold, they're still discarded. So sometimes, it's a place where, your children, even at a very early age, they encounter what it's like to feel the color of their skin. We have to have those uncomfortable conversations about how to interact with police and how to conduct yourself in school. That's terrible. And I think, that's where the beginning of our conversation really needs to happen. We need to talk openly about what is really going on and how we as a people need to do better. And, I'm all about having those uncomfortable conversations and revealing the uncomfortable truths about, what we are experiencing as Black and brown people.
Mm-hmm. I love this. And let me just tell you how long it's been going on. So my son is close to 40. If he's not 40, I kind of lose track. So when he was in middle school, he was in an AP class. And he brought home a C. So I called for a meeting with the school. And when I went in, they didn't understand why it is that I was coming in. What's doing
the big deal. It's work. Been there.
And I said, they said, okay, well, I said, well, what can we do? I'm like, Chris, what's your plan? Okay. And he put in what his plan was. If I had not been involved, they would allow him to operate at that level. Okay. For whatever reason, whether it's deliberate, whether it's implicit bias, it is unacceptable.
Yes, it is.
Unacceptable. I'm going to say this. My job might be on the line. I work for a program that really helps children bypass an opportunity to bypass the school to prison pipeline. Okay. I have to say that the numbers do not indicate bias. I'm really excited about that. But my question is, for those kinds of programs, why isn't it that we have the necessary funding to expand that program, okay, and the staffing so that we could really mitigate the issue?
Back to my effective government. We got to figure out what's working and what's not. And
exactly. It was an excellent point here, because this takes us to Aja. Hey, Aja, thank you for joining.
That's another one of my sorors.
I love this. I love the support. Let me tell you, she is a college professor, and she's dealing with that now because some students cannot write a complete sentence. They cannot, and I see that in our program as well. I can't even read what these young people are writing, okay, nor what their parents are writing, So let's talk about because this was an excellent point, different perspective. Let's see, there was a question. Let's listen to this. Mrs. Hall, the current lieutenant governor, chairs the Delaware Parole Board. Black and brown people make up a majority of those incarcerated. Reform is overdue. What is your position regarding that population?
Well, I got to tell you that I have worked for many years with reentry programs, and I definitely feel that there's an opportunity for those that are already incarcerated and coming out. The key to reducing recidivism is to set people who have offended up in ways where they can re-enter society in such a way that their likelihood of reoffending is reduced. Yeah. And that's an easy fix. I mean, they have programs down in institutions like Sussex that are training programs. But I'm seeing that there is not enough people going through those programs. So when they come out, they have a marketable skill. Having a felony on your record, of course, hinders your opportunity to be able to get suitable employment in some areas. And when I say suitable employment, I'm talking about, making enough money to be able to support yourself. It's a fact that we see that these kids are finding more lucrative propositions doing the wrong thing than doing the right thing. And so I've seen, situations where young people end up in bad situations just simply due to the fact that they just didn't have an opportunity. So, when they have made those choices and they have found themselves in situations to where they need to come out on the other side, they need to come out on the other side redemptive. Let's set them up in such a way to where we can do things such as ensuring that their driver's license is restored when they leave, making sure some of them don't have their basic documents like birth certificates or social security cards and all of those. These are just small touches that we can do to see that the institutions have that money, again, effective government. If you want to talk about how much it costs to house an inmate, for the life of their sentence, for some of them, they could have received a Harvard education for the money that we spend per inmate on these situations. So where exactly is that? I'm just going to throw a number out there, that $40,000 per inmate. Where is that going? Is that all going into the guards and all of those things? Could we look at how that money is being spent and figure out a way that whatever that budget is, that it's being used in ways that create opportunities for these people who have served their time and paid their debt to society, come out and be citizens that are contributing instead of reoffending and making their way back. I don't want to continue to see our prisons be one of those things that's a revenue generator. We got to get these people whole again, and we got to get them out there, and we got to do things that make them productive members of society, and we got to set them up in a way that happens.
And these conversations, to Alicia's point, they're not uncomfortable for us. It's uncomfortable for them because they're being called to the carpet.
That's
we
right.
have to have these conversations. It's very important to me that people understand that yes, we need, others' guidance. Okay, but we also individually have an accountability to raise the question, to attend the school board meetings. How is it that, they're trying to get rid of a whole school district in the state of Delaware in an area where the population of children look like us? Okay. It's just hard for me to fathom this. But as long as we allow this to continue, and I'm going to continue, Ms. Baylor said the same thing, in the witness reentry program in Texas is a joke. It is not just in Delaware. It's everywhere.
It's all over the place.
It is everywhere. And if the people who are currently in office are not doing something about it, not being held accountable for it, then it is up to us to do something.
That's right.
And how do we do something? We do it with our vote. We do it with our vote. You talked about, and this is critical, okay, economic advancement, okay. Tell us about, I love your slogan, but what you say, it's more than a slogan, so that all may prosper.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that. So I kind of want to circle back a little bit as a prelude to this. We cannot expect to see anything change in any of these areas unless our elected officials are connected to our communities. You can believe this is cute, okay? I just want people to see that I clean up nicely. But on a regular basis, you will see me out with my jeans, my t-shirt, my hoodie, my hair is pulled back, it's underneath of a cap. I'm out there with boots on the ground every day. making it happen. So when you have people who walk among the people and feel what's going on out in the communities all across the state of Delaware, and I'm talking about the state of Delaware because politics is local. And so we have an opportunity to affect change right here on Delaware soil. So I'm going to keep it local to us. But I can walk in, the bad areas. I can walk in the good areas. I can walk in any community. I'm educated, so I can speak up here if I need to. I can keep it real and talk to the people, and whatever place that they are in. And that's critical. We have to be relatable as elected officials. And the reason why I say we have to be relatable is because you cannot represent me if you don't know me.
Hallelujah.
Can I say that again? You cannot represent me if you don't know me or my struggle. So economic advancement opportunity speaks to that point because I see where programs that we needed to have visible and reachable and accessible are not reachable, accessible, or visible. So I'll just give you one of my own stories. When I moved back here in 97, after I'd served my term, I came back to Delaware. I'd had a difficult divorce. I was a single mom to 4 kids, and he wasn't doing his part to support those children financially. So I was in a position to where I needed to apply for public housing. When I got to public housing, I knew that because I wasn't raised in that, my pride wouldn't allow me to stay stuck there. So I began to ask the questions. I want to buy a house. I need to go back to school. I need to do this, X, Y, and Z. So I made out an action plan for myself. And every day, my motivation was looking at those 4 little hungry faces that needed any and everything from mom. So my dad, again, he was my best friend, but he always said, I need for you to suck it up and press on. Okay. And that's as good as I can give it. He said, those little people need you for everything. And you have to pull yourself together and make it happen, not for yourself, for them. So again, it's a service above self mantra. But when I was looking at the public housing piece of it, I knew that I wanted to have a home. Home ownership is important. I think when you own the knob that you turn, we need to start talking about creating generational wealth instead of generational poverty within marginalized communities. There's a definite strategy on how that happens, but my particular path put me in a place to where I took advantage of a self-sufficiency program. Now, I didn't find that easily. I had to ask for it. That's number one. So bring me back to that if I forget it. So when I asked about that program, what it did, and if you have ever lived in public housing, or if anybody's out there that's listening to me that does live in public housing, you know that is an income-driven algorithm that determines what your rent is going to be.
Yeah.
So I didn't make very much money, and I didn't have a high amount of rent. But when I remarried, now this is number 2, okay, because we definitely penalize people for making a whole family unit and mom and dad living in the house. Go
ahead now.
It's important. So when I got remarried, now his income was figured into that algorithm. And I experienced something in the neighborhood of about 500 and something odd dollars a month increase in my rent when his income factored into that. So because I had already started the self-sufficiency program and because I had already enrolled and going back to college, I had that already in place. And what they did is anytime you experience an increase in your rent because you were moving towards self-sufficiency, they put that in an interest-bearing escrow account. Okay? Stick with me. 18 months later, I was at the point where I had addressed all my credit issues. That's another piece. We got to get credit worthy. So there's all kinds of things. You get a free credit report once a year. I do Credit Karma. There's credit.com. Get on one of those things so you can monitor and see where your credit is going and address those pieces of it. So I was able to become mortgageable after I addressed my credit issues. And I had become self-sufficient. So at the point where I had completed that whole application to get a mortgage, I was in the process of signing my closing documents. The housing authority wrote me out a check for 18 months worth of escrowed plus interest money that I could use toward my closing costs or anything else. Now, God blessed me with a great opportunity because the home that I bought, I still live in. But I went into home ownership with equity. I had money above and beyond what my house was worth. So when you're out there and you're diligent and you're willing to get down and scrape your knuckles and your knees, crawling and digging through whatever resources are out there, you can make it. But why should it be that hard to find those things? It shouldn't be. It really should not be. So my piece with economic advancement opportunities not only speaks to being able to give resources to small businesses. That's another whole journey. If you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to get up and running, if you don't have the money in your pocket to get up and running, you're just not going to be able to bring your dream to fruition. Okay. We're in a situation now where banks and so forth are under scrutiny because the lending partners were not able or willing to give the monies to small businesses, especially to businesses who were Black-owned businesses, in particular Black female-owned businesses. I was blessed because I already had a relationship with one of the lending partners to be able to facilitate that application process. But I still know business owners right now whose businesses were viable before COVID, and after this and all the shutdowns and all the closings, they will never reopen their businesses again. That's a shame. So, we have to have resources for our businesses that are available. It shouldn't take a pandemic for people to become eligible for funding for their businesses. I stay very in tune with some of the things that the state offers. I got to tell you, I was very offended when I received notification that I was eligible to apply for a program. Now, get this. I needed $50,000 for my business. They required I have $50,000 matching dollars to be able to get that funding. How absurd. If I had $50,000, I wouldn't be asking for $50,000. And this is where I have real issue. I've worked with people in the Women's Business Center and connected with different lending partners, but they were requiring that I had to put up my house as collateral for these loans. There needs to be an access, and I get that there is risk associated with being, a lender and not being able to recoup your loss. But when you come in with a well thought out business plan, my business plan is 26 pages long. It shows growth over a 3 to 5 year period. These are the things that I find that we don't have real access to, and it's not that they're not out there. It's just that they're not visible. So my suggestion as a fix to this is people who have touches with public assistance, any kind of, supplemental help. That's where you have the opportunity to really disseminate the information. And as a requirement to be a recipient of some of this funding, we really need to make sure that people are engaged in making their way towards self-sufficiency. I'm finding that people are not looking for handouts. They're looking for hand-ups. They're looking for ways to improve their life and be able to move towards self-sufficiency. I'm going to say this, and then we can go on to the next question.
Now, honey, go ahead, share.
As a Delta, that's the pyramid. Okay. I'm gonna hold up my sign. Okay. But at the base of that pyramid, and this is one of my favorite references. If you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
Absolutely.
it talks about the base of that pyramid being able to address the physiological needs, the basic needs, shelter, food, clothing. Oh, a little person just walked in. Hi, honey.
Hi, welcome.
Okay, go downstairs. Let mommy finish her interview.
I love it.
Anyway, that was my youngest. That's the baby of the 10, and she's a joy. But anyhow, we were talking about addressing first needs first. When you address the first needs first, you set people up to be able to move to the pinnacle of the triangle. That's self-actualization.
Yes.
That's self-sufficiency. But we're missing the mark here on Delaware soil because we are not addressing the basic socioeconomic issues that plague our state. And that doesn't have a color, because I know just as many white people as I know Black people who are getting have a Medicaid card, and they can't get off Medicaid because if they make $1 over that threshold, they're kicked off of it. And I'm just going to put this out here. My strategy talks a lot about means testing. If you are in a situation where you price out of traditional Medicaid, and you have young children like I do, your young children can still stay on the Healthy Children's Program on a sliding scale basis. There's no reason that we can't port that model over into our public assistance piece. And then people, as they move towards self-sufficient, they are not penalized for making that $1 extra. People are incentivized and trapped on poverty in Delaware. We're going to change that. Did you hear me? We're going to change that.
We are going to change that.
Yes,
and that's a perfect segue to this. Okay. How is it, that we can support your campaign? How is it that we can make those changes and help you make those changes?
Well, you can go to my website and learn all about me. You can sign up to get involved. I need boots on the ground. I believe that grassroots campaigns are where they're at, but of course we need a few dollars. So you can click on the donate while you're visiting my website at donyalefordelaware.com. And I really want to make this a strong push. Win, lose, or draw with this election, we are going to shift this atmosphere. Absolutely. And we are going to change the political narrative for generations to come. I'm letting these elected officials know that we are going to hold them accountable. We're going to have their feet to the fire. And please, please don't ignore my phone call, because I have a loud voice and I will use it. So if I email you or I call you, don't think I won't go on Facebook Live and call you out publicly. And that's what I want people to do for me as well.
Yes.
My number is on my website. Call me. I answer my phone from the crack of dawn until much later than my husband would like. But I'm available, and I will talk to you. I can't believe we've had a whole hour, Tanya. Where did the time go?
We could go. You know what? And we could go. And we can go. I think it's important that you cover this other point, okay? Which is kind of, back to the basics of it. But effective government, you said that Delaware does not have a revenue problem. What problem do we have?
We have a spending problem. We harvest a great amount of money, and we have actually had years before coronavirus happened where we had government surplus here. And instead of protecting those funds and putting them away for days like this where we need to have something to fall back on, we just spend. And there's no accountability for that spending. That has got to stop. And that goes back to the beginning where we were talking about, being able to have a good mechanism for oversight for the monies that are spent. We need to have a deep dive look at what is working in Delaware. That's the audit piece of it. And that is something that needs to take place. We need to look at the effectiveness of these programs, whether they're working, whether they're actually serving the population that they were designed to serve. And if they're not working properly, I feel that, a 3 to 5 year window is ample enough time for you to show that you have made a difference in whatever funding you have received from the state budget. And we need to start holding people accountable for those kinds of things. There's too much money that passes hands in the state of Delaware where there's no accountability for it.
Mm-hmm. Another great fact, over 60% of Fortune 500 companies are incorporated in the state of Delaware.
Yes, ma'am. I love Alicia.
I love
it.
I love it.
Mind you,
show me the money. Okay, where is it going?
Here's the problem with that. A lot of Fortune 500 companies have chosen to make Delaware their home because our incorporation structure here is advantageous tax-wise. But how many of those Fortune 500 companies have brought their home office to Delaware? They're not. And the reason why they're not bringing, business to Delaware is because, we're failing miserably in our education. We have high crime rates. That goes all the way back to the base of that pyramid. If you address the first things first, then those things that we're performing poorly in, you're going to see a decline in those. So if people are gainfully employed and they're able to take care of their families, you're going to see a direct relationship and a correspondence to seeing the crime rates come down. If our children are educated well, they're going to not be out here contributing to what's going on out here on the street levels. I hate to see a disengaged youth, and I see too many kids walking up and down the street with no park to go to. I call it the Taj Mahal. The Boys and Girls Club is right down the street from me. That's cost prohibitive, and so if you want to actually find a place where we can bring our youth and they don't have to be out in the streets, that's a win-win, but we don't think like that. It's time for some people to be in office that think outside of the box and bring a fresh perspective and fresh blood to the conversation.
Absolutely. Alicia said it for me. Team Donyale, I am with you. Now, let me just say to my people out here, so you need to then look for her name. Okay, there's no longer push that lever, okay, and just pick everybody because it's on that list. You need to look for Donyale Hall. Is that how you're going to be listed on the ticket?
That's how I'm going to be listed on the ticket. And, ironically, my opponent, the incumbent, she shares Hall in her last name, but her last name is Hall Long. I'm just Hall.
Yeah. It's not going to be a long haul to get to you.
That's it. That's exactly right. And, we talked a little bit about this before as well. This is a little education piece. You can split your ballot. Growing up, we sat down at my dinner table and talked about who we as a family were voting for. So gather, your friends, gather your family, sit down, do the homework together and talk about, what these people stand for. It might be that you like the Democrat for this office, you like the Republican for this office, you like the independent for that office. You have to be able to navigate that ballot and not let it intimidate you. At some point, I'm going to put up a sample ballot so people can see, how it's displayed. So when you go into the voting booth, if you're a first-time voter, you're not ignorant about how to vote. So you can cross the ballot. So you can do this. You can play tic-tac-toe with that ballot and be able to vote. But it's imperative, and I'll say it again, that we have to be engaged We have to learn the platforms of the people who want our vote, and we have to not be afraid to make them earn our vote. I welcome anybody to call me. If you didn't like something that I said, you can have that conversation with me. I'm available. I welcome your phone calls. I'm willing to earn your vote. I don't want anybody to feel like I'm going to ever take that vote just at face value. It's not what I'm looking for. We got to be educated voters. We definitely do. Vote your values.
Have to vote our values. People, we are looking for a way to make a change. You know, we're talking about a candidate in the state of Delaware, but the process is the same. You know, I have friends and family and business associates everywhere. The process is the same. Know your candidate, okay? Have the discussion, you know, educate yourselves so that not, you know, the things that we have been doing, the lives that have been lost are not lost in vain, are not lost in vain. Ooh, I love this. I love this, Danielle. I am, like Alicia said, I am Team Danielle. Let me just put this back up here on the banner about how it is that we can find out more about you, connect with you. It's Danielle for Delaware.com. You know, it is important. People get funny when it comes to their money, okay? But I can guarantee you that we are spending on things that are not really things that are investing in our future and the futures of our legacy. So this is not about you. This is about making changes now, sustainable changes now that will impact our future. That will impact our future. The time is now. Now is the time. Danielle for Delaware.com. Danielle, just give us, you know, how you would like to, what would you like to share with us in closing?
In closing, I just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my platform. It's important that we get the message out. And I want to leave a charge and a challenge with your viewing audience that elections are bought and paid for. And if they are going to be out there spending money to make sure that the little guy or gal like me doesn't ever get a seat at the table, you have the opportunity to make the difference. And, you know, a yard sign is $5 for me. So that's about how much they cost. Any amount helps. Don't feel like you have to be pressured to make, you know, the $1,200 maximum donation. I'm looking for people to get involved in whatever ways they can. I need your time, your treasures, and your talents as well. So if you want to be involved, if you know, getting the word out on social media is a strength for you, I need you. If you're willing to get out here and you know, knock on a few doors and say, we'd like you to support our candidate and pass out a piece of literature. If you'd like to proudly display a Donyale Hall for Lieutenant Governor sign, let me know. You know, there are a lot of ways that, you know, we can have a grassroots effort where, you know, working families will finally get a seat at the table and be able to change the things that we need to do here. So I love Alicia saying a society grows great when we plant trees whose shade we never shall sit in. The time is now. So we need to do the work now so that our children and our children's children reap the benefit for generations to come of what we do right now.
Amen. Danielle, stay right there. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for staying with us. Like I said, this is an important issue. at home in everyone's backyard, in everyone's front yard. And really, I urge everyone who sees this now, I want you to go ahead and share it. I want you to, buy a couple of signs, put it in your yard. If you're here in Delaware, if you're somewhere else, there is a candidate who can represent you. Okay, you just need to step out there. Don't close your eyes to this opportunity, because it really isn't about you. It's about your children. It's about your children's children. My why is 11 years old. It's my granddaughter. That's my why. And that's why I'm doing this, and I will continue to do this. I appreciate you. To my audience, thank you for joining me. Remember to come back tomorrow at 8 p.m. All right, on in Tanya Inspires. My guest is going to be Senator Connie Johnson, state senator from Oklahoma. And she is going to be talking about all of these topics and the campaigns and her experience. And she and I were roommates in college. Little did we know. Okay. But the universe has us covered. God had his plan. And we need to go ahead and make sure that we're supporting each other. So to my audience, thank you so very much. And stay inspired.
Thank you.